Well, joining us now from London is Mostafa Ragab. He's the director and founder of Egyptian Affairs UK, and also Aly el Kabbany. He's the former general manager of the Islamic Press Agency. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for joining us. Mostafa Ragab, let me ask you very directly, this upcoming presidential election, does it have any credibility and any democracy in it?
Obviously, anyone who's got the ability and anyone who can fit the criteria can stand up for the election. We've seen a few people coming forward, but they have to comply with what is needed. Obviously, will they be able to or not to, that's a different matter.
Okay, so Aly el Kabbany, if you pass the test, you can be a candidate. It's a free and fair election.
The presidential election in Egypt is a big joke. The whole world knows about it. The outcome of this election is already known years ago, that a military coup leader will never leave his seat by the ballot box. Those who came with the gun and over the tank will never leave except by the gun and the tank. Anyone who dares to challenge the dictator of Egypt now, he goes to jail, and his image and reputation is tarnished. He is accused of being corrupt. Even those from inside the military establishment itself, like Al-Fariq Ahmed Shafiq, and now Al-Fariq Sami Anan, who was the chief of staff of the Egyptian army. So if this guy was a thief and a corrupt, and he doesn't know the military rule, so who inside this establishment knows? We actually all know the corruption of this establishment, but it is now exposed by their own leaders. Abdel Fatah al Sisi now, like Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, are exposing the generals of the military establishment are as cheap, corrupt, and poor thieves who are using their position and their authority to loot the wealth of the Egyptian people.
So let's bring in Mostafa Ragab, and let me just add to this the fact that we're looking at the 7-year anniversary of the revolution. So tie in your response to the fact that many people say what Sisi is doing is no different to what Mubarak was doing, or maybe it's even worse.
Let me just come
exactly
to your
the same
guest
regime.
in the other studio. Your guest in the other studio making a very, very serious statement and making a false allegation, and it is clear that he's trying to promote his own
false
issue.
Allegation. Where is Ahmed Shafiq and Sami Anan today?
Not to go on a TV interview. You are promoting your own issues, my friend. And when you ask and when you say the people who came with the gun must go with the gun, what are you actually asking for? Are you asking for Syria? Are you asking for Iraq? Do you take the responsibility for what you're saying now? I like when you come to a TV interview that you talk sensibly and you make the people. I don't know. The Egyptian people are happy with what they are. The Egyptian people gonna go to the voting day and decide who will gonna rule them.
The Egyptian people don't dare to open their mouths because Sisi built the jails to take them all there.
Who are you? Who are you to decide and talk about the Egyptian people or talk on their behalf? I cannot do that myself.
Egyptian people.
The Egyptian
and who
people,
are you to talk on behalf of the Egyptian people?
The Egyptian people will talk for themselves on the day of the election. So when you come and say people who came with the gun must go with the gun,
exactly. That's if there is a real election. There is no real election.
Have you got the gun? Have you got the gun to do that? Have you got the courage to do that? You people who just come on TV interview and asking for blood,
and
then when the fight come to the street, you all disappear. This is what happened with the Brotherhood leaders. When it came to the real fight, they all disappeared and left the poor people there in the streets of Cairo to face the blood. You all disappear. You just come on the TV and asking the people to fight. Can you fight? Can you go down to the streets of Egypt and fight yourself?
Okay, so let me ask
Can you carry a gun? Can you go and fight against the army?
You've asked a bunch of questions there, Mr. Ragab.
You are making a very false allegation and coming to promote your own issue.
Okay, Aly el Kabbany.
Not to go on a TV interview.
Okay, I have a question for you, Aly el Kabbany, and then a question after that for Mr. Ragab. Aly el Kabbany, let me ask you. I'm not going to ask you if you're willing to take a gun and go and fight on the streets. But what I want to ask you, given that Mr.
No,
Ragab...
because I'm not a thug like Sisi to do that.
Okay, given that Mr. Ragab mentioned Syria and Iraq, One of the arguments, particularly coming from Western backers of Sisi, is that there might not be a whole lot of democracy in Egypt right now, but he's a stability candidate. Is there any truth in that?
This is nonsense and cheap propaganda of the Sisi's propaganda.
You mean to deny there is stability on the streets of Egypt now? Do you mean to deny that there is a stability in the streets of Egypt now?
Any dictator, any dictator would have a stability by the gun and opening his jail. Let me talk to the people. Please let me talk to the people, and the people of Egypt know your propaganda very well, because the propaganda machine of Sisi is working 7/24. So let me tell the Egyptian people the situation.
If what you're saying is true,
alternative,
if what you're saying is true,
listen and
you
learn.
should be the one in jail now.
Democracy.
What are you going to teach me? If
what
you're saying is true, then you should be in jail now. You're talking freely. You're talking a lot of nonsense, and you're not in jail. You're not in jail, are you?
Well, he's in London.
If I'm in Egypt, they will put me in jail.
He's in London. Okay,
I'm
Mr.
in
Ragab,
London.
Okay,
that's
fair
why
enough.
I'm talking my mind.
Yeah, you're both in London, and this is good that we're having this conversation. Mustafa Ragab, let me ask you. I guess you can agree that Senator John McCain...
I didn't answer your question because he was interrupting me.
Okay, so answer it. Go. 20 seconds, answer it, and then I've got a question for Mr. Ragab. Go ahead, Mr. Kabbany, and please don't interrupt, Mr. Ragab.
To fool the Egyptian people and saying the price of stability is to accept military dictatorship and to accept to act as slaves to these military establishments is nonsense. And they give you always the example of Syria and Iraq. What about the example of democratic, respected countries in the whole world who have got flourishing economy and people are enjoying their dignity and freedom of speech? It's all propaganda machine in Egypt, brainwashing the Egyptian people. Is the alternative to Sisi is the condition of a civil war like in Syria and Iraq. And actually the situation in Syria and Iraq now is so much better than the situation in Egypt, when you have a military regime in which the ex-chief of staff of the Egyptian army is not safe. And he cannot speak his mind.
Okay, fair enough.
And he cannot put his name as a candidate for the coming election.
I do think some people would disagree with the fact that in a place like Syria, where more than 400,000 people have been killed, that is somehow better than Egypt right now. But let me ask Mustafa Ragab. I want to ask you this question. I think you can agree that Senator John McCain is not a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he has no Brotherhood agendas. Yet he came out and he said, over the past few years, we have witnessed Egypt lurch dangerously backwards. President Sisi's unprecedented crackdown on political activism and fundamental human rights has led to the imprisonment of tens of thousands of dissidents, including 19 American citizens and nearly 3,500 young people. He went on to mention torture, lack of a free press, and so on. You can't disagree with that, can you, Mr. Ragab?
Of course I can disagree, because Mr. McCain, and not just Mr. McCain, the whole American administration are playing a very dirty game in the Middle East, and what they want to achieve, they have achieved it, but not in Egypt.
But your President
Sisi
is a client to this regime.
No.
Sisi made Egypt a client state to the Americans.
You very unhappy when I interrupt you, so you should do the same thing. Do not interrupt me when I'm talking, please.
Okay,
because what you just said is a very laughable,
many times.
very laughable statement. What you said, that the situation in Iraq and Syria is better than Egypt. I don't know what planet you come from. I don't know what news do you watch. I don't know where you get your knowledge from, if you have any knowledge. I just laughed and laughed and laughed at what you were saying. But if we go back to Egypt,
carry on laughing, as I laugh about you and all the hypocrites of Sisi.
There is a price people pay for everything. And the price that people pay for the stability of the streets in Egypt now is that some people will be victims.
Is losing their dignity and freedom.
Now are
this is the price they are paying.
Doing the wrong things. And my friend, you're talking about freedom. My goodness gracious. If you don't have freedom, you will be in jail. What you said just now, you should be standing in a court.
Okay,
you should be charged for what you say.
I know, but again, as we determined, he's actually in London. He's not in Cairo, so they can't really get him there. But unfortunately, I've got to move on. I've really enjoyed this discussion. Gentlemen, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the Newsmakers. Mostafa Ragab and Aly el Kabbany, thank you very much for joining us.